Welcome, guys. So this is the third podcast, and I'm joined by Nasser Hussain, Azahat Salim, otherwise known as Scientist. And today we are very fortunate to also have Adil Ibrahim with us. Welcome, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Adnan. Good to be here.
No, it's good to be here, Adnan, as usual.
Fantastic stuff, guys.
Thanks for having me today, fellas.
Please first let me know, can you see my screen?
Yep, crystal
Last time we
clear.
had some slight technical problems, and yeah, all right, that's fantastic. Good start. All right, firstly, as is the norm, we're going to start with the current standings. I've spent some time kind of going through the maths behind what each team will have to do to get through. As I'm discussing each team, I'll ask for your points as well, and if I'm making any mistake, please let me know, because my maths may not have been perfect, and I'm sure I may have made some mistakes here or there. Also, for the viewers, I know there are some like extreme probabilities, like one team, getting out for 0 or something ridiculous like that, and those probabilities then just make the situation a bit complex. So I've tried to be reasonable with what I'm going to say and try to take the most reasonable approach in the mathematics as well, in the statistics. So starting with Firth Park Warriors on top of the table right now, for them to be able to get through, I think they've already done enough. They will ideally also like to win against Firvale Falcons, but they don't need to necessarily win. They're in a very good position, and I think they can perhaps go on and try new things even in the last, maybe try some new bowlers potentially, just in preparation for the semi-final and final. Moving on to Darnall, and this is where it gets interesting, moving on to positions afterwards. Now, if you look at the game that Darnall Dynamite have in their final game, you can see here, hopefully you're able to still see my screen, that is against Pagehall Panthers. And Pagehall Panthers, they've been underdogs. I think people were looking down on them, but they've been quite successful at times. They've beaten City as well, which is a game of note. So Darnall Dynamites will be looking to ideally beat Pagehall Panthers to give themselves the extra chance of success of getting through. Even if they're unable to beat Pagehall Panthers, with the current situation of their run rate, which is at 3.6, absolutely ridiculous run rate, they should still be in a very good position to still get through. If at any point you guys want to take over, just raise your hand. I'll be able to see on the screen here on the right side, by the way. Hopefully you can see the raise hand option if you want to add anything on any of these comments as I'm going through the table here. So now moving on to number 3 position. So we've sorted out what the first 2 teams need. Burngreave Tigers. Their next game is slightly easier. Never underestimate any team in cricket. But you can say that Manor, perhaps, are not the strongest team in this current lineup. So that should be a relatively easy win for them. And they should make it through into the semi-final stage. So not much to say there for them. Now, moving on to Firvale Falcons. Very, very interesting. Oh, yeah, sorry, Ibrahim, please, would you like to add something? Please go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick point. You mentioning Manor Gladiators being maybe not as strong as some of the other teams in this current tournament at the moment. We shouldn't forget the players that they brought up this week. Quite a few new players, new faces. You never know, it could cause an upset. They are a lot older, a lot more experienced outdoor as well. So you know what you say. I mean, by no stretch of the imagination is it going to be a walk in the park. But I think it's going to be a good game.
I mean, absolutely. I saw 2 individuals walking in. So I'm sorry, I'm not good with names, but if you guys can remind me, especially the tall gentleman who came in, who was bowling at significant pace.
Naseem.
Now, I've seen him bowl outdoor with the tape ball as well. And, he's not someone you can hit around easily. He can bowl at some really good pace. And I think he's probably one of the fastest in the league. So if he can turn up in that game and take some quick wickets, that can be quite problematic for Burngreave Tigers. Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off again, Adnan. Not to mention his batting. He batted pretty well this week.
Definitely. And, we only have to look back at what scientists said to Burngreave Tigers to see how fragile their batting can be at times. even though they have the leading run scorer in their team. So with time in mind, moving on to number 4, Firvale Falcons. Now this is where things get very interesting. Now there are a few things that have to go right for Firvale Falcons, and scientists and I were having a discussion in the pre-start of the podcast that things have so far gone absolutely right for Firvale Falcons, in the form of City getting a thrashing from Darnall Dynamites, which has worked in the favor of Firvale Falcons, and they have also had a very dominating performance in their own game. So that has definitely, you know, done no harm to their chances of getting through. But the next game that they have, you know, me myself being you know, part of Firth Park Warriors, I will perhaps say things which are biased towards my team, but I would say that this is going to be a big challenge for them. Quite recently, you know, they have struggled against the Firth Park Warriors, originally known as Molby Sixers. So it will be quite an interesting contest. And scientists, there, I see you raise your hand. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just to elaborate on that, as you just perfectly mentioned, Adnan, everything's gone in the way of the Firvale Falcons so far anyways. I mean, it's not over until the fat lady sings, as they say. And next week, big game. But what you have to remember is that they're still not out. Firvale Falcons do need to keep in mind is that there is still chances for City and Pagehall to take that number 4 position. So can't be taking anything lightly just yet.
So absolutely. So for Firvale Falcons, to get through, firstly, they have to beat Firth Park Warriors and ideally beat with a good margin as well, just to get their run rate up and be on the safe side. Pagehall have to lose to Darnall Dynamites, and City Strikers will ideally, they have to lose, but even if City Strikers don't lose, Firvale Falcons just have to make sure that City Strikers don't beat Tinsley by a huge margin, because there could be a situation that City win and Firvale win, but City gives such a big thrashing to Tinsley Thunder that, you know, it could cause a bit of problem. And obviously what Darnall did to City yesterday, that would have helped a long way in making sure that norm rate of minus 0.5 isn't going to be anything, you know, too easy to deal with. So yeah, I think Firvale is covered. Now, another interesting thing to note with Pagehall, they've only played 5 games. So, you know, even though the other teams are perhaps only having 1 game to go, Pagehall has 2 games, and one of the teams that they're facing will be Tinsley. You know, some would say this is a very much one-sided affair. Pagehall should roll over Tinsley, which will leave them with a main game of Darnall. So they need to beat Tinsley with a good run rate and also defeat Darnall to be able to get into the semi-finals. So straightforward, I mean, I say straightforward, but straightforward in terms of what they need to do, really. But yeah, a big challenge, I mean, beating Darnall Dynamites. Coming down to City Strikers. City Strikers, I mean, they were on top. I mean, I remember from the early stages of this tournament, I'm sure you gentlemen also recall this, the dominant time that they had in the first 3 games. But currently, you know, they do find themselves in a quite difficult position with this run rate. What they need to do to be able to get into semi-final is beat Tinsley by a very huge margin, and at the same time expect Pagehall to lose and Firvale Falcons to lose to Molby Sixers. So very interesting contest coming ahead. And Nasser Hussain, I just see you raise your hand. Please go ahead.
You know, by looking at this table, I don't even think that Burngreave Tigers are guaranteed a spot in the semi-final. If you look at their run rate as well compared to Firvale Falcons. So let's say if Burngreave lose the next game, you know, that could be a spot of bother as well for them. Because let's say if Firvale win and Pagehall win the next 2 games, then maybe, you know, potentially them 2 teams can go up, and then Burngreave will obviously drop down the table.
Yeah, absolutely
Look at
right.
the run rate.
And this is the headache I was having when I was going through all the combinations. At one point, I was just, you know, writing it down, trying to understand, you know, what is the best way. And I just tried to take the most sensible approach of what's going to happen. But you're absolutely right. You know, anything can happen in cricket. Ibrahim has mentioned that the new players coming into the teams could have a huge impact at the later stages. We've seen what new players coming into Darnall, what kind of impact they've had in the later stages. So, you know, that perhaps is setting a foundation for something here. But yeah, I mean, moving on, onto the games now, guys. And I think maybe this is worth mentioning before even we start talking about the games. A fantastic point that was brought up by Ibrahim. I think it is quite important, and it's to do with umpiring. The importance of umpiring, how much appreciation we should show of the difficulties the umpires face. So I'll let Ibrahim take over here and just, expand on these points a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Adnan. So yeah, bang on. Umpiring, I think it's been a question following yesterday's games. There may have been a couple of altercations, in which case I think, 1 second. Yeah?
You have my washing card?
Yeah, 1 second. Apologies, 1 second.
No worries, so while Ibrahim is there to sort out his business, I think we'll go ahead and analyze the first game, guys, if that's okay with you. And we'll then come back and expand on this point. Just keeping time in mind here. So first game, Tinsley versus Firvale. As expected, Firvale showed quite a dominating performance here. They were able to, as expected, roll over Tinsley. A player that we haven't mentioned in any of our podcasts, and I thought is good to bring up for discussion, is the difficulty of negotiating with Saeed al-Rahman. I mean, he is someone I've always felt that has probably one of the highest IQ in terms of how he sets up the batsman, the variation in his bowling, and his analysis of the style of play that the batsman brings about. This is something that you don't see some of the other more talented bowlers doing. They just go in, they're there just to bowl at good pace. They're not going to assess the conditions of the batsman, the stroke play he's doing. So yeah, I think Ibrahim, I've raised the point. Please go ahead.
I have, yes. Let me just put my hand down. The case with Saeed al-Rahman, amazing player, as we all know. Great spinner, quite destructive on his day. There was quite a battle for him among several teams at the beginning of this tournament. Many transfers going through from team to team, some uncertainty where he was going to be playing. And it's just a point that I actually brought up yesterday with some of the commentary team. He's been effective, but I don't think as effective as he would like in this tournament. However, yesterday, he pulled it out of the bag when his team needed him. I believe it was 3 wickets for not very many. I think he's going to want to continue this form. He's going to want to continue this form. Sorry?
Yeah, I've got the scorecard.
Yeah, he runs.
Yeah. I think he's going to. It's in his best interest, and obviously his team's interest, to make sure that he follows this up coming up into the semis if they do qualify.
Absolutely. And I mean, Nasser was saying, having him in your team, he is quite a valuable asset. So I'll let you go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, just like Ibi said, he's a fantastic bowler. He's very experienced, and he's got the ability to win any matches by himself. That's the value he is. That's how valuable he is as a player. What he did right in this game compared to other games was that he set the field himself. I think that was crucial for him as a bowler, that you got to set a field according to your strengths. And that's one thing I loved about him, is that he was very bold. Compared to other games, this game he was very, very bold, and he was aggressive, and he set an aggressive field place as well, which I really liked about him in this game. But yeah, nevertheless, he is wanted by many teams, just like Adil Ibrahim said, that he is wanted by many teams, and I'm happy that he's back in form, and hopefully that form will continue in the next game.
Yeah, I think ideally your team would like him to have quite a dominating performance also against Perth Park Warriors as well. And he will be the key bowler that you're looking towards as well. And I think he's one of the only bowlers who will always have a second slip here. That's the kind of confidence that he brings with his bowling. And look at that, the gripping the ball, the moment his pitching is turning in that direction. And then I think one delivery that he consistently gets wickets with is that Yorker length, quicker one he bowls. A lot of the times I've seen him, shatter the middle stumps with that. So fantastic. I mean, best of luck as well to Firvale Falcons.
I mean, if you look at one of his wickets as well, the one he yorked on the batsman, that's swung in a mile as well.
Yeah, so
Look
we
at how
can
much
see here.
swing you put into
Actually,
that
look,
ball.
exactly, that's the ball right there. That quicker
Yeah,
one swinging
look
in.
at
That's what you have to be careful about against Sayyid Rahman. You know, you're expecting the ball to pitch there and turn it towards a slip as most of the balls do, and then occasionally
Yeah.
on the third or fourth ball he will bowl this delivery, and yeah, most of the time he'll hit the stumps, otherwise your leg. So yeah, fantastic bowler there. Moving on, guys, here on to our next game. I am sorry, by the way, if I do miss out performances of some players. Zoom has a limit on how long our meeting can be, so I have to get through most of the key performances picked up by the media team. So this was quite anticipated. Oh yeah, that's your hand is still raised. Is that by? I think it's just.
It's by default. Sorry.
No worries. So this was quite a much anticipated game as well. I know Darnall's City was probably slightly more anticipated. I mean, I was more excited for the game than my own game. But yeah, this, to be honest with you, with the total that Burngreave had set initially, you would feel quite confident in their ability to defend that total, because they have a formidable bowling attack in the form of, nickname Niku, as we have, OS, and his younger brother, Rizwan. I mean, absolutely, this is a very fierce, fast, straight bowling, stump to stump. But things did not seem to go to plan. They seemed to be all over the place in terms of what they were doing. They were consistently, I'm not sure why, but they were on consistent basis bowling short. I don't know if this was a strategy they thought of beforehand towards some batsmen, but they were trying it against every batsman. I can understand this being a weakness towards maybe one or two batsmen in the team, but you have to understand this pitch. The moment you're bowling short, you're giving extra time to the batsman because the pitch is not really helping with the pace much. So yeah, Adil, please go ahead.
Yeah, just to bring up the points of Rizwan and Awais. A few people did make some observations yesterday in terms of, yes, what you just mentioned, bowling slightly shorter than they usually would. But then sometimes it's not a plan. Sometimes nerves can play a big part as well. I think that's something that we discount quite a lot. There is pressure out there, especially with a game like yesterday, top of the table clash. It's just about managing like those nerves. They are young players. Obviously something that they'll learn to deal with experience and age, of course. But yeah, just wanted to put that in there.
I mean, absolutely, Avi, you're right. And, this is a young team as well, especially the two young bowlers. And the captain going forward should pick up things, how to motivate the bowlers in those middle crucial overs, 6 to 8, when things are perhaps not going to plan as you expect. How to make sure the line and length can be improved during those times. That could have a huge impact in the later stages. As you saw with Molby Sixers, Burngreave Tigers could have got a substantially higher total than what they ended up with, actually. But Firth Park Warriors were able to pick things up in the later stages, which helped a lot. So yeah, scientists, please go ahead.
Yeah, correctly said by you guys. They're a young team. They're still developing. They've done fantastically well. Their leading run scorer, Wes, Ishfaq, doing really well with the bat and with the ball. But, in a situation like they were last night, that's where your experience comes in, I think, anyways. That's where you need your senior players, you need your bashers to stand up, speak to the youngsters, because at that stage in time, there was a point where the Firth Park Warriors, they were under a bit of pressure. From 3-4 overs had gone in, the run rate wasn't quite there. And they were on top of the Burngreave Tigers, and then as soon as a bit of a partnership when Zubair came in, I remember he hit a lovely shot down the ground for 6 runs, and the momentum started to shift. It's at that moment in time is when you need your seniors as well as your captain to step up, talk to your bowler, and just explain to him and give him a game plan to work towards. If they don't know what they're bowling, then it's going to be trouble. But the moment you give them a game plan, give them a field that you want to set, because at that moment in time, your bowler's under pressure. They won't know what to bowl. So as a captain and as a senior who's played for such a long time, if you give them a plan, for example, I don't know, let's go wide outside of stump, let's go Yorker length outside of stump, let's set a field with a guy behind square and 3 guys on the off and 1 guy on the leg. just setting bowling to a field. I think that's what they were just missing in that game last night. And I think that's just something to consider moving forward into the next game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, changing things up in those crucial stages can have a huge impact, and one wicket can change the tide of the game. Moving on to the Firth Park Warriors bowling innings, and I mean, once again, Shadab consistently ensuring that he's bowling with a very low economy rate. I believe his economy rate was 2 again, and crucially picking a wicket in the first over. He did the exact same thing in the last game. I mean, Arman, I understand that he's quite an aggressive player. He's always wanted to play his shots, but I think he should give himself a bit more time. A few more balls to settle in. There's no need for wild hogs, especially when you're going into the semi-final and final, and you have such a talented player who can dominate the bowling in the later stages. You don't need to absolutely smash every single thing, because what will happen more often than not is that, especially with the opening bowlers, when the team is having their best bowlers coming on, you're going to struggle. And a lot of the times, as you can probably see what's going to happen here, you're going to go for a big shot, and it's probably going to crash into your stumps. So yeah, I see Nasser Hussain, you raised your hand there for about a point.
Yeah, so you just mentioned that Shadab has bowled well, and rightly so. He has bowled brilliantly, not just yesterday, but he bowled throughout the tournament really, really well. And I think one thing I noted that he bowled out of cutters, and that's what Burngreave was struggling, is picking his cutters and his quicker one. And the way he was bowling, and you were saying that he's economical. Why was he economical? Is because he bowled landing length, and he never moved from that length. He always made sure his length stayed the same, and his line stayed the same. And I think Burngreave should have looked at that, and they should have learned from it. That we should keep it nice and basic, just nicer landing length, and maybe they would have had you in trouble.
Absolutely, yeah. And Adil, I'll let you go on there.
Yeah, just following on the point from what Nasser just said now, in terms of Shadab's areas that he likes to bowl. Look, I don't think there's many bowlers who've been as erratic as him. I can't remember the last time he's bowled a short ball, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think yes. So just to obviously shadow some of the points of what Nasser just said. And another point I wanted to bring up is something that you just said now as well, Adnan. You were speaking about Arman's batting. You're saying that maybe he should take a bit of time and get used to it, or play himself in, as it were. Look, you know what you're going to get with him. It's not within his nature to play defensively like other players and open up later on. Look, it's paid off for him in the past. He's won games for Burngreave Tigers. So I think it might be slightly unfair or maybe overcritical for the neutral to maybe suggest him changing his batting style. Look, he's had a bad day at the office. He's had a bad day yesterday. But I'm sure that his teammates around him are gonna back him up as they have done throughout the tournament. So I don't think there's much to worry about from Arman's point of view.
I mean, absolutely, you make good points. It's hard to go against someone's nature. But from my personal observation of the team, if someone is coming to open your batting and playing in that manner, in a very, very risky manner, and you lose the wicket, let's say it hasn't paid off, unfortunately, that also creates a certain amount of pressure for the next batsman coming in. Of course, if it pays off, it does wonders for your team. But that added pressure then can lead to wickets falling, in quite a quick succession, as what happened when Scientist was bowling and the wickets fell very quickly. So that's something to consider. But absolutely, I understand it's a fair point, and we let the viewers judge how they want to see this. It's good to have both sides of the argument always, guys. Don't feel like you need to agree with everything someone says. I prefer for you to bring up contrasting points. It makes the whole session a bit better. Nasser Hussain, I have you have your hand raised.
Yeah. So you just mentioned that with the way he was batting yesterday, Arman. You just said that the middle order, he puts a lot of pressure on them. But this is something that they should have thought about before even putting him into opening. And I do agree with Ibrahim. That's just the way he plays. He's not much of a runner. He likes to hit everything out of the park. So if the middle order felt that they were pressured because of his erratic batting, as you said, then they should have thought about that beforehand, before sending him in. So it's the responsibility of the seniors such as Bash or Hamza to plan it together and to think about who's the suitable openers against the attack that Firvale Warrior possess.
Absolutely. Now, another player I think I haven't mentioned before enough of is Zishan Z, who was known. I mean, absolutely fantastic bowler. I think he's probably one of the bowlers who bowls the most consistent line and length at really good pace as well. So it's very difficult to negotiate with this person. And Hamza has been in fantastic form in the past 2 games. And he's faced some really good bowling attack, especially against City. So he was an absolutely huge wicket. I think if Hamza stayed there, Burngreave would have quite easily surpassed that 100 figure and ended up on something around 120 to 130. So, absolutely huge wicket there from Z. But yeah, scientist, please go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to just elaborate on Z himself. Fantastic bowler, as you've just mentioned. The one thing that I really enjoy about Z's bowling, I mean, his batting's just a whole different level. It'll take a full session to describe his batting. That's how good it is. But his bowling, what I really like, as you mentioned, the line and length, but also the consistency to bowl the cutters, the in and the outs. What I've noticed is he has this ability, much like, Jawad Salim from Pagehall Panthers. He has this ability to cut the ball in and out with a very similar action. I've noticed this of recent times, and it's such a prized skill to have within indoor, to be able to, and not even to change your action while you're doing it as well. It's the same action, but one will nip away and one will seam back in. So you're always, as a batsman, guessing which one it is that's going to come to you, and that's what just makes him such a great and underrated bowler.
Good points there by scientists. And another player I think worthy of mention, Zubair Halik. I'll let the video play out. I personally felt this was probably one of his fastest overs in this tournament. He was absolutely on fire. He was bowling brilliantly. But, this is unfortunately the curse of cricket, how quickly things can go against you. And this speaks volume on people who can bowl this consistently and not bowl wides and no balls. You can bowl 4 or 5 absolutely perfect deliveries, as Zubair pretty much does here, but that one single no ball can ruin the entire over. So I think the points to reflect on, I mean, look at that absolute beauty. Oh yeah, so in fact what happens here, he bowls an absolute ripper and Zain edges it, goes to the keeper, carries to the keeper, but he's bowled a no ball. So now, he's lost out few points. He's lost out on the opportunity to pick a wicket, and he's given confidence to the batsman to go against him. So batsman's already down, but now he's got another life. And, let's just see what happens now. That confidence Zain has, and look what he does. Look at that, absolutely glorious 6 down the ground. And that's cricket at its finest for you. So lesson learned, keep your line and length straight, but at the same time, make sure your foot is well behind the crease as well. You don't want to give opportunity, especially in the semi-final and final. I mean, just have a look at this. The scorecard, 27 runs have come from extras, right? And some of you might say, okay, there were leg byes, etc. They're not. 9 wides, 4 no balls. And then those no balls also led to 6s on certain occasions. So that's a lot of runs. That's, if you include the no ball 6s, I think about 30 to 40% of the runs came off errors. Otherwise, the bowling was quite fantastic. I was thinking we bowled so well, why have they got 100 runs? And this is the reason when we go back to the figures. So Azahat, you're someone, I think, who has probably, I don't know if you've even actually bowled a no ball in the various BBICL cricket arena leagues. So how is it that you make sure that you're always behind the line, regardless of you getting whacked for 6 or not? I mean, you're very, very disciplined when it comes to getting, bowling. So how do you maintain this?
I think it just comes down to your pre-build-up. But what I mean by that is before you even bowled your first delivery, obviously know where the line is, but don't try too hard. I think sometimes as a bowler, you want to sometimes give that effort ball, and I think that's what's happened in this case and in a lot of cases. You'll get bowlers who will try to put that extra effort into that one special delivery to try and zip it through and try and create something, and I think that's when you can lose your footing. So it's important to stay disciplined, almost like a test match kind of bowler. Stay disciplined on a line and length, and just keep working from there. And that's what I tend to do. I work with my strengths. Everyone knows my strengths as well as my weaknesses. But I tend to, when I'm bowling, keeping it simple, not trying to, overcomplicate anything, and just let everything else falls into a rhythm. It's all about having that nice rhythm, follow through, action, everything all in sync, and that's how you can maintain that discipline from bowling a no ball. And that's what I do, and I think that's what a lot of other bowlers should try to focus on as well.
Thank you, sorry, did I disturb you there?
Yeah, I just mentioned. Yeah, I mean, it's not to say don't go for this. The effort ball. Definitely go for it, but just make sure that everything is in sync before you actually attempt the effort ball. Make sure you run up. Your follow through. Everything is all going smoothly. There's no bumps in it, and then you'll be successful.
I mean, scientists has pretty much written an essay for you there, guys. If any of you want any lessons on how to not bowl a no ball, so quite detailed. Thank you very much, Nasser. I would love to have your point on this as well, but I think because there's a limit on how long I can keep a call going, I might have to move. Can you guys see how long the call is on your screen, guys? Anyone? I might have to move on to the next call because I don't want the call to get cut off. So we'll move on to the next game. I think before I discuss the Pagehall game, I'm going to first move on to the Darnall game, just to keep the time in mind in case the call gets cut off. Now, this game absolutely fantastic, much anticipated. I personally couldn't be there, unfortunately, but I was glued to my screen. I had it up. I was following it ball by ball. This was a much closer contest than many had anticipated. I mean, completely took a lot of people by surprise what happened. But I think it's first, before we move on to the City batting innings, we need to first discuss what happened in the Darnall innings. One thing that I noted that I think led to the downfall of City was their fielding. I mean, they were absolutely all over the place. And at one point, I think Yusuf smashed his hand on the stumps down there because he was that frustrated by his team members. They were letting him down. And I mean, we can have a look at this example here. Look what happens here, guys. So the ball has gone to the fielder, who we can't see in the screen, but he's just down there, right? Now, look, Shoaib is all the way here, and Jawad is right next to him, and the fielder has a ball in his hand. You would normally expect this to be quite a simple run out, but unfortunately, how things unfold, this turns into nearly an extra run. And this is not something that just happens once. I counted this happening 5 times. Obviously, not maybe in the same location. It was once here, once in that side. So it was happening in different regions of the ground. So it wasn't just one fielder to blame. There were multiple fielders involved. So this probably led to about 15, 20 extra runs on the total, which were unnecessary. And the other thing, which is quite similar to what also happened in the case of Firth Park Warriors, is the fact that they leaked so many extras. I mean, so if you have a look at this innings, they also have 25 extras, 14 wides and 2 no balls. So, I mean, Ibrahim, you've played cricket, not just in UK, all over the world, actually. You've played in Australia as well. And, from the travel log that I followed of yours, you've also been to the Americas. So what would be your fielding tips for a team in this situation to make sure this mistake is not repeated?
Fielding wise, Adnan, I strongly suggest just warming up beforehand. It's a short format game. It's 12 overs. It's not a considerable amount of time in which you're able to get yourself in as a batsman or get yourself loose as a bowler, or indeed as a fielder. Get yourself warmed up, or get your shoulders and your joints warmed up. I think it was a bad day at the office for the City strikers in the field. They usually bowl pretty well. And I'm glad that you brought up City strikers as well, actually, in fact, because their batting as of late hasn't been, to the standard of some of the other teams like Darnall. I mean, if you look at Darnall in this game that they played, the openers, Arslan, Jawad, were very watchful. They weren't hasty. They capitalized on the extras that were bowled, of course. But as well as that, they looked to push in the gaps and they just went. They had a good understanding. But just to answer your point in terms of the fielding, look, if you just look at the video,
we see there as well. Just look at that. So there's a fielder there that the ball goes to, and
it's great.
And then Yusuf, has a good go at the stumps there out of frustration for what's happened.
If you look at that video, Shoaib's already halfway down the track. He's got a mutual understanding with Munib, who's like Sonic the Hedgehog. Like he runs pretty quick. So obviously, I think that's key. Good team chemistry is the key. It doesn't help if you got new players coming into the side. The other players don't know how they're going to play. What their strengths are, for instance. But yeah, I'll just bring up a quick point in terms of the City strikers. I think that's where they may falter. They may fall coming up in these last couple of, in the final game. It's important for them to figure out pretty quickly as to what's going to happen or how they're going to plan their innings. It's all well and good, relying on one person like Yusuf, who's performed consistently for them week in, week out. Okay, yesterday he didn't do too well, but I think that's where they're quite weak or quite vulnerable. And plus, it doesn't help that it's freezing cold in the hall. How are you going to be able to field properly? How are you going to be able to bat or perform at your best if half the time, it takes you a while to warm up in there. I'm sure you've had experience, and everyone in this chat and everyone watching has had experience of playing in that hall. So it's definitely something to address.
Yeah, I think that just comes along with the blessings of being in the UK and playing cricket here in this region. Another, noteworthy performance I think is worth mentioning is Shoaib Khalik. He's someone that was consistently failing in the first few games, getting out. I think he got 2 ducks, but now, he played an absolutely fantastic innings here. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly where the sixes are in the video, but I'm that six that he actually hit 2 sixes, but one of them in particular was absolutely beautiful to see against Imran Khan. Imran Khan is not someone you normally hit for a 6. He's a very difficult bowler to hit for a 6. So that was a fantastic innings by Shoaib. And I think teams that are going into semi-final and final, they should be wary of the performance of Shoaib Khalik. I mean, if you need to know the caliber of this player here, you need to just watch what he did to his brother Zubair Khalik in one of the finals against Molby Sixers. And I believe it was maybe the 2019 edition. He absolutely dominated that final, and that innings plays back in my mind whenever I think about all the finals that Molby Sixers have lost. So definitely something for them to for teams to consider going forward. Moving on to the main thing, which is the what happened in the second innings. I mean, scientists, I will let you I was not there before I come to you. Can you just set the scene? What was happening? What were the people feeling like? What was the environment like when this was happening?
I mean, it was something that was very unexpected from the people's point of view, from the team's point of view. I don't think going into the game anyone would have actually anticipated this to have been the outcome. I mean, it was just atrocious batting from the City strikers. I'm not sure entirely how they managed it. All credit given to the Darnall boys. They bowled phenomenally. Don't take anything away from them, but you wouldn't expect such a performance from such a highly rated team such as City.
I mean, you're absolutely right. This is one thing with City. They have potentially one of the best bowling attacks, but when it comes to batting, I feel like they are way too risky in their style of play. They don't have someone there who's going to anchor the innings. They're there to actually hit the ball out of the ground, or rather hit the ball to the back wall of its hole. Adil, I'll let you mention your point now. Please go ahead.
Just to let you know, I've had a message from an anonymous source saying that the length of this video is unlimited. Just to let you know.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay.
That's really good. As I was mentioning,
Please continue.
I thought you were also going to make a point about the batting, but no, not worry. I think another thing I've noted with the batting of Yusuf is, I mean, I don't know if you guys see the similarity, but he bats in a very similar manner to how Arman bats, which is, first ball going there, and he's, if the ball comes in his spot, he will try to absolutely whack it. And most of the time, this, to be honest with you, would probably go for 6. But when you have such a tall, fantastic fielder, athletic fielder at the back, I mean, what a fantastic one-handed catch! He's still there in midair. That is a glorious catch. So the point I'm making here is, when it's a knockout game, maybe even if it's against your nature, you should try to fight against that temptation to try to absolutely whack the first ball. Or the other idea, which could be that perhaps you demote yourself to lower down the order, and you will face slightly more weaker bowling, and you can perhaps exploit that. But it's obviously a very difficult balance to figure out what's going on, and this requires for you to assess the bowlers that you'll be facing on a given day. But if any of you guys have tips for teams, when you have such aggressive players in your makeup, how do you deal with this issue when you have no one to anchor? You have someone who is just going to go there with the explosive batting style. Adil, please go ahead.
Yeah, so one of my journalists just radioed me in my earpiece, saying that, look, shots like that, like we saw from the first ball of the innings from City strikers, where Yusuf just pumped it down the ground and Darnall just put his hand up and he plucked out the sky. Look, it may have followed on from the first innings. They may have been frustrated, they may have been upset, they may have been angry. It may have clouded their judgment or their mind, compared to how they would normally approach a chase. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the question that you posed, or the point that you've made, look, it's gonna, when you got when you got runs on the board, it's always, there's an added element of pressure. If you're going to look to try and find players to play certain roles, it's a little too late for that now. It's almost crunch time. The only hope that I think City strikers have got is, I think Yusuf needs to have a really harsh, a good chat with these players, and tell him what he wants from them. It's no good everyone coming out and playing hoo-ha cricket, and just obviously like they're losing their wickets. Not to take away from the amazing bowling attack, obviously, that Darnall displayed on this day, but I think it's important for them to regroup more than anything if they've got any chance to qualify for the semis.
Definitely. I mean, and the reason perhaps some words may seem slightly harsh is because we have high expectations of City. City is a fantastic team, and at times we were thinking, we were actually in our media group. We were making videos of predictions of who will go into the finals, and it's something we were going to post, but the plan didn't come through. But I had predicted City to get into the final because I had that much confidence in their abilities.
I think everyone did. It
was a bit of a, to be honest, it was a big heartbreak as well for them to collapse like this. I can see them losing, maybe losing by 10, 15 runs if things hadn't gone to plan, but losing in a manner where nearly by 100 runs. And I remember one of the bowlers was saying on TikTok that he's going to, that they were at such a high position at one point. He said they were going to roll over teams for under 20 runs because that's how good they were at one point. But it's quite unfortunate that the same thing actually unfolded in this particular game. And so, going forward, I think they will reflect on this game as Firth Park Warriors did in their first game. Look how badly they lost against, City, but were able to make a comeback. So in a similar manner, I think City can reflect on this game, and there's still a chance for them to make a comeback. So yeah, Nasser Hussain, I'll let you go ahead first with your point.
So if you look at the batting performances, City strikers, from the previous game and this game, I mean, they played the same way, except that, the use of first ball, just, trying to slug first ball, it's not really his way of playing. Normally, he takes his time, obviously gets singles here and there, and then he goes for a big one. If you look at the previous game, that's exactly what he did. They just run for everything. They were even hitting it to the fielders, and they were running.
Yeah.
But this is what I feel. This is my opinion. That what they're trying to do is probably repeat that same batting performances against these. But what they fail to understand is that there's a big difference between Firvale's fielding and Darnall's fielding.
I mean, absolutely, Nasser Hussain. I mean, any other fielder, I think, on that pitch, you can probably take that single too. I mean, look where the ball is. So they both set off. The ball is still over there. You know, that's still sometime, even now, the ball is still there. And you would expect the batsman to make it. But here you have a man in the form of Jawad, who absolutely, you know, fantastic fielding by him. He's very athletic, and he probably has one of the best aims I've seen as well.
But
and he will throw the ball at pace. So just look what he does here. I mean, I have no chance for the batsman. You can see the fear on the face of the batsman. There's no chance there. Nothing can be done.
But
quite
if you look
for the batsman.
If you look at Sufyan as well, he set off quite late as well. You got to bear that in mind as well. I mean, you know,
and there was a slight collision there as well. You know, them getting in each other's way as well.
If you look at Jawad, like as soon as he ran to the ball, look where Sufyan was. Yeah, Sufyan should have been way ahead of Jawad as soon as he ran for the ball. But he should have been backing up. I mean, look, he was still in his crease. Then he ran. He should be backing up. He should be at least not even halfway, but even
up to this white line.
Halfway. Yeah, up to his white line to, you know, he would have got there easily. But because he set off late and he gave Jawad ample of time to collect the ball and, you know, go for the stumps.
Absolutely. And, you know, that's just 101 of indoor cricket. Scientists, I'll let you go ahead for your point. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's just a quick one, just to elaborate on what you guys have already mentioned. You know, it's all about awareness of the game. As a team who's just come into the league, I think this is a bit of a flaw that's just they've had this amazing armor on that, you know, there's not been any cracks, but you can see a bit of cracks showing. And that's one major thing, the awareness that City strikers possess in this indoor league to be able to know which ones to run and not just when to run, but how to run as well. Always make sure you're backing, you know, your batsman up. And I think that's what let them down in this game is their, you know, game awareness in this particular game, which was, you know, a very important game for them as well. So that's just something that they have to keep in mind going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, Adil, please go ahead with your point. I see your hand is
raised. I'm just following on from what Azhar just mentioned, actually, in terms of how they were running in between the wickets. Again, I'll reiterate the point where I've mentioned, I think they were frustrated in the first innings. I think they were panicking, especially when they lost the earlier wicket of Yusuf and the wickets kept tumbling and tumbling. You know, it was almost like seeing deers in headlights. Sorry, like a deer in a headlight, you know, like in a headlight where they don't know what to do. Yeah. Also the fact that Jawad, right, that was one of the best fielding efforts that I've seen in this tournament so far. One hand pick up and throw, straight into the stumps. One thing that I think everyone may forget or overlook is the fact that he's left-handed. If that was a right arm bowler for everyone else, you know, the right arm bowler has to come round. He has to pick it up with his right hand. You know, the time isn't there for him to then stabilize himself and then let go of the ball. The fact that Jawad, obviously left-handed, helped him in that sense. So subconsciously, I think everyone wants to hit it in that gap to the right-hand side. You know, I think subconsciously people think that that's the easy run, but in this case, he went against him.
Ibi, do you think that is to do with the scoreboard pressure as well? Because, you know, if you're chasing more than 110 runs, they must have looked at the target and thought, you know what, we need to crack on now. We can't, you know, waste time, you know, staying on the crease. So could it be due to scoreboard pressure?
Yeah, Nas, no doubt about that at all. You know, you've lost two wickets in the first over. You know, I think that. Sorry, is it 3 wickets in the first over?
I think it may have been 3 wickets in the first over.
Okay, well that's even worse then. If you got any team, regardless if they're City Strikers or Burngreave or you got any other team who's playing in this tournament now, mate, if you've lost 3 wickets in the first over, I think many teams are going to be panicking. You know, panic stations.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. You're right. So I mean, I'm wishing best of luck for City going ahead. You know, I hope none of the players mind, you know, if they're being harsh with them. You know, we just want the best for each team in terms of performance, and you know, we really hope the best for them actually going ahead. With time in mind, moving on to the final game. Well, this was the 3rd game, I think, in possession. And the key player to be noted here in this particular game was Usman. I mean, he had an absolutely fantastic game here. If I'm not mistaken, he actually scored 40 odd runs. So let me just bring up the scorecard, guys, one moment. And yeah, I'm correct. 41 runs of 20 with a strike rate of 195. I mean, Usman, much like Jawad, one of the best fielders I know. In terms of fitness levels, he's up there, one of the top players, and beautiful batsman as well, and smart batsman. I mean, look at this. Firstly, just observe the 6 he hits. I mean, absolutely glorious 6. But one thing I noted with Usman, watching his innings, he was utilizing the gaps in the field the best way you can expect from a batsman. So he would play some really unorthodox shots, you would say, but he would pick up the gap here on the leg side very effectively. And then when they actually put a fielder on the leg side, he started picking up the gaps on the offside. And that is a sign of a class indoor batsman who knows where to place the ball, who knows how to, I mean, look at that. I think he hit 2 successive 6s there, so consecutive 6s rather, I should say. Beautiful, wonderful player. And this is why Pagehall may be really threatening in their upcoming game. You know, they have a really good chance of still making it through to the semi-final and potentially, you know, holding the cup. So I am looking forward to their games, and I hope they keep the same consistent team, to be honest with you as well, because they have very good bowlers in the form of Jawad, and they do have a very much packed batting lineup as well. So best of luck to them. If any of you have any points to mention from that game that you saw, anything that I may have missed out, please let me know.
No, I think you. Sorry, go on, Nas.
No, go ahead, but you go first. I'll go after you.
Okay, thank you. Adnan, yeah, I think you've pretty much hit the nail on the head there. You know, it's important for them to keep a consistent team going. Sorry, apologies.
It's all right. I think Ibrahim may have had a fire alarm go off there. So, scientist, I'll see you raise your hand. I'll let you go ahead, please.
Yeah,
dealing with this. I hope everything's okay there.
Yeah, they've always been classed as the underdogs coming into this tournament. Like City Strikers, like Manor, a new team coming in, new players, and to get to where they are, considering it's relatively their first tournament, they've done extremely well to get to where they are. And I genuinely think that there will be some kind of upset in the tail coming this next week on Saturday when they play against Darnall, because they do have the ability, and as shown there and as shown in previous games as well, to get the runs on the board. And the bowling is not anything to be taken lightly of. You got to remember, they've got one of the most finest indoor bowlers in Jawad Salim at their hands. So it is going to be very fascinating. I would not be surprised if they cause an upset this coming week against Darnall.
Absolutely, you're right. We do have some very interesting games coming up ahead. Obviously, this is the mixed game being covered here. But after that, Firvale versus Firth Park and Pagehall versus Darnall. These are going to be some key games that people will be looking out for, for getting through. Nasser Hussain, I'll let you make the final point before we conclude this meeting.
Yeah, so going back to Pagehall Panthers, what makes them so different compared to other teams is that they have a lot of variation in terms of their bowling. I mean, you look at Jawad Salim, he's a beautiful bowler to watch in terms of his variation. He can bowl the move in and out. And then you have another bowler, Irfan Khan, who was more of a skiddy bowler, and he can swing the ball in. And then you also have another bowler in the face of Usman as well. He's a brilliant all-rounder. And I'd just like to say that, Pagehall, just like as I said in the previous videos as well, that they're not a team to be taken lightly due to the fact that they are very, very experienced. It's just that not a lot of teams are aware of them. That's probably why they're not being paying attention. They've been paying attention more on Firvale, Burngreave, Firth Park. But the one team they've not looked at is Pagehall Panthers because of the experience they have. So yeah, they got 2 games, and they're gonna make sure they're gonna beat Tinsley on a huge margin, and hope to beat Darnall as well. So these 2 games will be very, very crucial for them, and also for Firvale as well. They need to win the next game as well, because if they lose, then they got a slim chance of them qualifying. So just like you said, it's going to be very, very interesting going into next week now, because now the table is very much open, except the fact that Darnall, in my eyes, Darnall and Firth Park are already through. So now it's very much open for the last two spaces now. And this is what makes it more interesting going into next week.
All right, guys. So I'd like to thank you all for joining us. Nasser Hussain, Salim, and Adil. Hope you have a brilliant evening as well.